greening is an issue with STBs, as with all sorts of other things. Where the chips are concerned and the other components, I mean, what can you do in terms of power consumption to reduce?
I mean, yeah, power consumption has been pardon the pun, a hot topic for us now over the past 12 months or so, and the developments we've put in the chips in terms to manage their power consumption actively quite considerable. Putting intelligence in the chip basically to enable you to turn off unused parts of the chip, to basically clock down parts of the chip that don't need to be used at their full capacity, to give you a whole range of options to enable the set-top box manufacturer to have different operation modes for the box itself, be it completely off, or in a mode where it just has to stay partly alive, ready to do a recording, through to completely on. That's been one of the key areas we've been investing in, and all our new chips have this capability.
John?
So there's a lot of ways to save power in any appliance, but in a set-top box, one of them is at the component level. There's a software level, firmware level, a user model level. So whether you know it or not, we're making power supply devices that can communicate with the central processor to be told to turn on and off and to turn blocks on and off. And it's great to see some of the techniques that were developed, for example, in cell phones, where you clock down or turn sections like the radio off in order to save power. And those are all great and essential and happening. In addition to that, though, there are user model differences that can really save power, like instead of turning your plasma TV on, to look at the schedule on your remote control. That saves a lot of power. And to have user model differences require hardware, software, and marketing differences in set-top box design.
As much as
I think education is one of the key points, actually, for the user to fundamentally to actually turn the thing off, and to accept maybe that if they put it into a standby mode that's going to use really low power, that it might take an extra 2 or 3 seconds to come back into life.
Well, because these flat screen TVs take long enough to switch on anyway, don't they?
I think if we're dependent on teaching a user base to save power, by changing their behavior, then it's going to be a long time. They'll see it in their bill, but it's kind of invisible and it takes a long. I think that having these features built in and making them fairly transparent and easy is what works.
We already have a clear commitment on eco-design, and it's currently implemented in our new generation set-top boxes. So 2 lines of eco-design. One is power reduction, as you mentioned, so we're using new chipsets, silicon, also sophisticated techniques to reduce power, standby and operation mode. And also we introduced new recyclable bioplastics. We looked at new plastics, polymers, where you can have full recyclability. So that's a kind of 2 areas. There is a European Code of Environmental Conduct, which has been voluntary up until recently, but will be coming into force. And we meet and exceed the requirements laid out there, and I think that's certainly the way forward.
Well, the security system doesn't consume much power now, but...
That's good to know.
But our system, at least, are not dependent upon any upgrades during night or anything like that, so it's safe to turn all the devices off, and the system or everything will be working when you turn it back on. So that's at least we can say that we have done in order to open up for the possibility to change user habits.
I'm happy to see that a lot of the techniques that were used, for example, in notebook PCs and cell phones and so forth, are getting moved into the set-top box. So now set-top boxes and the chipsets allow...
So the kind of stuff we develop for battery life, you can now just build into stuff that's...
Right. Wake on LAN, wake on IR, wake on a variety of different commands, so that most of the time you're in idle. And when you are in idle, it really is in a low quiescent current state and so forth. But as long as the set-top boxes don't have to have a parallel dual 64-bit processor to do their job. It can be a DSP or some other state machine. It doesn't require a PC-type, 100-watt box staying on or staying almost on to operate. That's another advantage in using the set-top box as a home gateway.
Yeah, but a set-top box doesn't need as much processing power as a PC, but the requirements we're seeing to meet the next generation requirements of operators, everything always needs more processing power. And then the task is on us to provide that additional processing power, but in power efficient ways, using multiple cores, dedicated cores, say for 3D graphics, being able to clock them down when they're not being used to their full potential. So it's the balance of providing power in terms of usable power for applications versus minimising the actual power the device consumes.